What's up, guys? It's Deepak here again, and today I want to talk about really breaking past those, first impressions, and ultimately how to attract a beautiful woman, whether you're an introvert or an ethnic minority, like me. This is for all of you who are either, Indian, Chinese, Polish, whatever. You have an accent. You're overweight, skinny, short, tall, short-sighted, shy, quiet, you know, growing up in here in London, and also, at the time that I went to school, it being 97% white and having, a name like Deepak or Deepak, it just led to certain stereotypes, okay? Some positive, okay, Indians are to be trusted. Indians are hard workers. Indians understand value for money. Indians are negotiators. Some that weren't so helpful. Indians date Indians. Indians don't like dating outside of Indian culture. Indians don't really rap or MC as I did, which is a whole different story. Which, if you're interested, look up Deep Impact on YouTube. And ultimately, all of these stereotypes serve to help us, but in many, many ways, when it comes to attracting beautiful women, whether you're an introvert or an ethnic minority or both, harm us. And this is why that, what, dating advice I think just does not work for, minorities or really introverted people. Okay, there's, negative preconceptions that everyone has, as we mentioned when we spoke of, the whole Apu side of things. There's, women who just would not, my partner Daniela said she never even understood, and I had a French partner, some years ago, who equally both literally said that they never really even saw that Indians existed until, we got into relationships. And this is the battle that we face, right? This is the struggle that we are not even, the lowest on the actual scale. We're outside and off the map, off the radar. So women will not consider your type. And you know what, for many people, it, makes sense that, because we all imagine birds of a feather flock together. My assumption is that most Indians will date Indians. My assumption is it will be the same for many cultures. And the world is changing, and really the problem with the advice that we're given from people that, talk to us about dating and relationship advice is that they're nothing like us. They're not British Indian. They're not, ethnic minorities. They're not economic migrants. They've not had to deal with these similar kinds of stereotypes that are built in for, anyone who is like that, or even if you're not, anyone who has to deal with a significant physical issue, a significant stereotype that stands in the way of you being in an amazing relationship, whether casual or long term, with someone that you'd like to be with. So I want to really give you a sense of who I am and how I've changed over the ages, to really demonstrate that, what, it doesn't matter actually what is on the outside, to name your cliche. This is me. This is me from 18 all the way through to 30. Okay, we've got from the top left me at 18, right in the suit there, me at 20, me at 19 on the right, me in the middle there at 29, maybe 30, me at the bottom left at 22, 23, me in the middle with the long hair at 24, and then on the right hand side, bottom right, that's me at 18 again. And you know what? I have had a journey, and at every stage, no matter what I look like, what I really truly discovered that, as we discussed, it really wasn't ever about my looks. And I've gone through, a series of metamorphoses and discovered, that there's some really consistent things that aren't about the stereotypes, that aren't about the preconceptions that people really do have of you. So what I want to really go through is how to flip the first impression that people have of you on their head, okay? Flip them totally on their head. And that's what we're going to go through. And I'm going to take you through 3 examples of women that I've dated and got into, short relationships with, of various lengths, and really just to talk about, some of the things that were critical in those initial moments. So the first thing is the pattern interrupt, okay? Pattern interrupt really, is literally the case of showing that you defy the convention, showing that you are not only Chinese or Bangladeshi or Sri Lankan or Pakistani, but you also are, an incredible fan of World of Warcraft. You're an incredible fan of, football, or you're an incredible, enthusiast of ballet or whatever it might be. But pattern interrupts, okay? Pattern interrupts, as shown by the way that you hold yourself, as shown by determining your passion, purpose, and path, really are important. And that can also manifest itself in different ways. Do you notice how I talk sometimes quickly and then I slow it down? And you can measure your words meaningfully and really, making it about good conversation. Okay? Good conversation is a huge generator for curiosity. And curiosity is the key, right? Showing that you have depth, as I know that you do, demonstrating that there is depth to the passions. And this is something that we'll go on, of course, to talk about, that, whatever your passions may be, whatever your pursuits may be, if you are able to work with pattern interrupts to variate some of those, moments in terms of your storytelling and make it about good conversation, you can really generate the curiosity needed to take that next step. So the first example that I want to go through is the example of Alexa. Alexa was and is a white British woman who I met via Tinder. And really, it was a case of swiping and us connecting. And I want to talk about the bones of really, the conversation that we had, right? So one of the big things here, and one of the big ways that women can discern intelligence is, of course, then, a pattern interrupt or something that, disrupts whatever is the norm in terms of how, a woman is approached. And this isn't the cheesy pickup line. This is really about verbal repartee. So with the case of Alexa, what I mean, and uh, I laugh because I've got the actual Alexa in the background just switched off at the moment. But in this case, with Alexa, it was about, quick, short and sharp responses, making the conversation fun and light-hearted, making use of emojis to demonstrate emotion when you're texting, and going through the steps of allowing your passions to be demonstrated properly by moving conversations from Tinder over to WhatsApp more quickly. And some of these elements become critically important when you're actually, determining what it is that you can use to demonstrate interest in an exchange. And the key is the verbal exchange. It always is the verbal exchange. So verbal repartee, meaning verbal tennis, quick, short, sharp humor, making use of emojis backwards and forwards, and focusing the conversation upon lightheartedness, because that will then lead into, escalation naturally, rather than focusing perhaps upon the more serious and typical aspects. In the second example, even though this is called example number one, we've got Rachel. So Rachel is a lady of mixed race, Caribbean descent, but British, and she was a woman that I met on the tube. What was interesting was that she had a suitcase at the time on rollers, and she happened to be seated next to me, and we got talking about the suitcase. Literally, I said, "Oh, what's in the suitcase? What do you do?" And that was where literally the casual conversation started. And what's important with that is recognizing that there was nothing fantastic about what I did right. I know that some of you may be worried about the verbal tennis and the escalation and emojis. In this instance, it was literally the casual conversation. What is in your suitcase? It turned out that she was a hairdresser, and that was her mobile hairdressing set, and that she was off to see a client. We then got into it and talked about, what she does with her clients, and I really was quite interested in it because it was something that I wasn't really familiar with. And, I asked, and we talked, and we discussed. And one of the things that, I asked was, "Oh, where's your stop?" And it was about 7 stops away. So I calculated that I had maybe 14 minutes if it was to go anywhere. And I simply said, "Hey, can I have your number? Maybe we could go for a coffee sometime." She said, "Sure." We exchanged numbers, and that was really the start of things. And it all began with simply talking about the suitcase. In the third example, we have Natasha. This was in Amsterdam when I was around 27 years old, and I was living there for a couple of months. And she was a lady of mixed Dutch, born and rather she moved from Serbia, no, Moldova. There you go. She moved from Moldova when she was a young child, and her parents were half Moldovan and half Dutch, one from either side. And in this instance of Natasha, she was a lady that I literally walked past while I was on my way back to my flat. We were in an isolated circumstance because, of course, it was, well, not of course, but it was a quiet high street. She was just parking up on her bicycle. I was in a different country, of course, so there was the element of anonymity. And in that instance, I then literally, we crossed eyes and I took the plunge and said, "Hey, I like your bike. What's your name?" That was the key, saying something as simple as that. It was scary. "Hey, I like your bike. What's your name?" "My name's Natasha. What's your name?" And really, the conversation simply went from there. And what I'm trying to demonstrate to you is that people will give you lines, people will tell you, that there's approaches and positions, and it's really, really simpler than you think. And actually, if you approach with confidence, if you approach with energy, then you allow the opportunity for surprise and curiosity to follow. So I hope all of that makes sense, and I'll talk to you soon.